Americans know cities with the name of Tikrit and Fallujah and Ramadi because those cities were bought at a high price of American and UK blood, liberated first from Saddam Hussein's regime and then from Al-Qaeda and other terrorists. Iraq eventually was made free, given a more liberal constitution, had multi-party democratic elections. It was on the right path. Then, of course, Barack Obama pulled all the troops out of Iraq, and an offshoot of Al-Qaeda called the Islamic State has been taking over. Well, yesterday, they conquered the city of Ramadi, the capital city of the massive Anbar province. It's most of western Iraq. It's the largest province in Iraq. And I should point out, as you can see on the map, that it borders Jordan, a moderate Muslim state, Arab state that borders Israel. Jordan is in jeopardy, and of course the rest of Iraq is too. News reports say that when the Islamic State conquered Ramadi, they took over a police station with 50 cops inside. Obviously they will be slaughtered. I pity any Christians or Yazidis or Kurds or any other minorities left in the city. They will be murdered as well. This is another disaster. Thousands of American lives were spent buying Ramadi a first time. Then it was simply handed to the Islamic State, who will surely kill thousands more. How did this happen? Well, let's ask the leader of the free world what he thinks.
4 years ago, I promised to end the war in Iraq. I did. 4 years ago, I promised to end the war in Iraq, and I did. I told you we'd end the war in Iraq, we did. I said we'd end the Iraq war, we did. I told you I'd end the war in Iraq, and we did. I ended the war in Iraq as I promised. In 2008, I promised we'd end the war in Iraq. We've ended it.
Do you have any second thoughts about pulling all ground troops out of Iraq?
You know what I just find interesting is the degree to which this issue keeps on coming up, as if this was my decision.
In case you're wondering, we're losing the war with terrorism.
News today as ISIS is reportedly making gains into the city of Ramadi, a very crucial city that they have been fighting to get for some time. They've raised a black flag, we are learning, over the government compound in that city. New video coming into Fox that shows the fierce fighting. Look at this. So the apparent incursions and perhaps the fall of Ramadi comes despite assurances from the Obama administration that Iraqi forces were holding their own. Let's get the take of Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, who is a Fox News military analyst and the author of Counterfeit Lies. Good to have you here this morning, Colonel. So
that's good news, though.
Yeah, I mean, you've spent obviously a ton of time with our forces on the ground in Iraq when they were there, and now we have these trained Iraqi forces. What's your assessment of what's really going on the ground?
Well, Ramadi is the capital of Anbar province. It was a city of about 600,000. Apparently about 400,000 remain. 200 some odd thousand are now refugees internally and externally in Iraq and elsewhere. This is a major city. It is the gateway to the rest of the Euphrates River Valley. It is absolutely crucial, if you're going to hold the largest province in all Iraq in the hands of the central government in Baghdad, that they have Ramadi. It's far more important than Fallujah ever was, even though it got a lot more press. And so this is a devastating blow to the government in Baghdad. It is proof that this is not a military force. In the hands of the Iraqi military is not adequate to take on something like Mosul, which still has over 1.5 million people in it. So the idea that they could be going after Mosul is lunacy.
So where's the 60-nation coalition that's supposed to be helping us defeat and degrade ISIS? And where is the update on how this mission is going from the President of the United States?
Well, instead, what we're getting is an effort to censor the news. You know, the White House is now suggesting, in the administration, that the visuals that we're showing on ISIS are propaganda for ISIS. Well, in fact, much of that kind of video, including the horrific murders performed by ISIS death squads, are all being shot by ISIS cameramen, to include the footage that we just put on the air. We have no control over that. And the idea that somehow we're not going to tell the American people how horrific things really are in Iraq is absolutely crazy. Our War Stories documentary unit uses old B-roll for historical purposes. Now, what we're seeing on air right today comes from cameramen that are out there that might be with ISIS, might be freelancers, more likely it's somebody that ISIS can control the output from. The reality is we don't have enough ISR or air power in the region, particularly over Syria and over, obviously, Anbar province, to control the outcome of what ISIS is doing. The airstrikes have not forced ISIS to change a bit. They've changed their tactics, but not their strategy.
I mean, the timing on this report that the White House and the administration and that the retired General John Allen, who's in charge of, he's the envoy through the State Department in charge of all of this, they're saying, you know, this isn't the way that ISIS gets around anymore. They don't come, you know, barreling into these cities, you know, on convoys with flags waving in broad daylight. They say that the image that you should be showing, if you had it, was one Toyota creeping through these cities in the middle of the night with no headlights on. And they also say that we should be showing the strategic attacks from the sky, which we have used that video to, you know, when there's news on specific attacks.
Sure. Well, look, the idea of us being able to get images of U.S. troops training Iraqis and the idea that you can simply request an embed like I did 57 different times out there is lunacy. It's now a bureaucratic nightmare to get a news team on the ground with U.S. forces, and certainly it's difficult, and Catherine Herridge was just on, can validate, almost impossible to get the kinds of footage they were talking about of a drone strike, as they call it. Look, you put our two-man War Stories team out there with U.S. Special Operations units or the Marines out there in Western Anbar, I'll give you the footage, but don't make it a nightmare for us to get there.
Great point. This story is not being told, and we've heard precious little about an update on this mission to degrade and destroy ISIL in a very long time from the White House. It would be good to get an update on it. Colonel North, thank you very much. We'll see you.